If you are over 60 and you have ever felt confused, rushed, or completely overwhelmed at the airport, stop for a moment and listen carefully. I hear this story almost every single week from passengers I meet on flights. Was I just taken advantage of? A 73-year-old woman named Eleanor asked me that exact question on a flight from Chicago to Phoenix just 3 months ago. She had paid nearly $400 in fees she did not expect. She had been redirected twice at the gate. She had missed an upgrade she had actually qualified for, and she sat in the wrong seat for 2 hours before anyone corrected it. She was not careless. She was not confused. She was being systematically taken advantage of by a system specifically designed to overwhelm passengers. And seniors are the most targeted group of all. New research and insider reports show that airlines and airports use at least 5 specific psychological and structural tricks that disproportionately affect travelers over 60, costing them hundreds of dollars and enormous stress on every single trip. I'm Maria. I have been a flight attendant for 22 years, working for 2 major international carriers. I have watched these tactics used on passengers from the inside. And in this video, I will expose the 5 biggest secrets airlines use to trick senior passengers, and exactly what you can do to protect yourself before your next flight. Before we dive in, drop a comment below with your age and where you are flying from next. Have you ever felt confused or overcharged at the airport and not known why? Write your answer below because your experience helps protect our entire community. And hit that subscribe button because I share insider travel secrets like this every single week to help you travel smarter after 60. Most people believe that if they made it to the gate and got on the plane, the airport experience went fine. But for travelers over 60, that assumption can cost you hundreds of dollars and hours of unnecessary stress every single trip. The tricks airlines use are not dramatic or obvious. They do not announce themselves. They work through confusion, time pressure, visual overload, and the deeply human tendency to trust authority figures in uniforms. And by the time most senior passengers realize something went wrong, the flight has already departed and the fees have already been charged. Here is the problem. These tactics have a name. Airline professionals inside the industry call it passenger friction engineering. It is the deliberate design of booking systems, gate procedures, boarding announcements, and fee structures to generate maximum revenue from confused or overwhelmed passengers. And adults over 60 are the most profitable target group because they are statistically more likely to comply without questioning, less likely to dispute charges after the fact, and more likely to be traveling infrequently enough that they do not recognize when standard procedure has quietly changed.
I saw this play out personally with a passenger named Gerald, age 71. He was a retired school principal, intelligent, organized, careful man. He had printed his boarding pass, arrived 2 hours early, and done everything right. What Gerald did not know was that the airline had quietly changed its carry-on size restrictions 3 weeks before his flight.
His bag, which had flown with him a dozen times before, was now technically non-compliant under the new policy. A gate agent spotted it. Gerald was told he had 90 seconds to either check the bag for $75 or leave items behind at the gate. He panicked. He paid. What he did not know, and what I am going to tell you today, is that he had 3 other options available to him in that moment that would have cost him nothing. The trick had worked perfectly. The time pressure, the authority figure, the unfamiliar rule, and the fear of missing his flight all combined to extract $75 from a man who did not owe a single dollar. Here is what most senior travelers do not realize. The dangerous moment is not when something goes dramatically wrong. It is in the ordinary, rushed, slightly confusing moments that feel almost normal. A fee that sounds standard. An announcement that seems routine. A gate agent who appears helpful, but is actually following a script designed to upsell. In older travelers, waiting to question something until after the transaction is complete almost always means the money is already gone. Now, Here is where the first major mistake happens. Most senior travelers rely entirely on their assumption that airports and airlines operate on fixed, transparent rules. They believe that what a gate agent tells them is the complete and final truth. They trust the screen, the announcement, and the uniform, without realizing that each of those elements has been carefully designed to influence behavior in the airline's financial favor. Without insider knowledge, the manipulation goes completely undetected. This is not rare. Gerald was living out a perfectly normal airport experience, while that $75 was extracted from him in under 90 seconds. When travelers understand the specific tactics being used, they can protect themselves in real time. This is why insider knowledge matters just as much as having the right ticket. If you are finding this helpful, go ahead and hit that like button. It really helps us reach more senior travelers who need this information. Now, let us talk about the first proven way to detect and protect yourself from these airline tricks. And this one will save you money before you even reach the airport. Secret number 1 is the hidden fee stacking system buried inside your booking. If you look at how most senior travelers book flights, they focus entirely on the ticket price displayed on the screen. They find a number they are comfortable with, click confirm, and feel satisfied with the decision. But airlines have spent billions of dollars engineering their booking systems so that the final price you pay almost never resembles the number that first attracted your attention. This is called drip pricing, and it is one of the most profitable tools the airline industry has ever developed. I watched this happen to a passenger named Beverly, aged 67. She was a retired nurse from Florida, sharp and careful with money her whole life. She had booked what she thought was a $189 flight to visit her grandchildren. By the time she reached the airport, she had been charged $189 for the base ticket, $35 for one checked bag, $28 for a seat selection that was presented as nearly mandatory, $14 for travel insurance she did not remember selecting, and $22 for priority boarding she had clicked by accident on a screen designed to make it look like a required step. Her $189 flight had become $288 before she reached the gate. She had no idea. When she asked at the desk, she was told all charges were visible during booking and non-refundable. The system had worked exactly as designed. Here is what most travelers over 60 do not realize. Airlines use a booking design practice called dark patterns, which are interface choices specifically engineered to cause accidental selections, hide opt-out buttons, and make add-on fees appear to be required steps. Pre-checked boxes for insurance, seat selection screens that make the free option nearly invisible, confirmation screens that add bags automatically unless you actively decline. These are not accidents. They are intentional revenue tools. Research from the Department of Transportation shows that ancillary fees, meaning fees beyond the base ticket, now generate over $35 billion annually for U.S. airlines. Senior travelers account for a disproportionate share of that revenue. The key protection here is simple, but requires a specific habit. Never book a flight on a small screen under time pressure. Always use a desktop computer, where the full booking interface is visible. Screenshot every page of your booking before clicking confirm. Read every pre-checked box before advancing. Call the airline directly after booking to have an agent read back every charge on your reservation. Your total confirmed price should match your booking confirmation exactly before you ever reach the airport. Knowing what you actually agreed to is your first line of defense. Secret number 2 is the gate pressure tactic designed to extract last-minute fees. Many senior travelers believe that once they reach the gate with a valid boarding pass, the financial exposure is over. But the gate area is actually where airlines collect some of their highest revenue per passenger, specifically from travelers who are too close to departure time to research alternatives or push back effectively. I witnessed this pattern with a passenger named Ronald. age 74, a retired engineer who traveled twice a year to see family in Europe. He arrived at his gate 40 minutes before departure, which felt comfortable to him. What he did not know was that the airline had oversold the flight and was looking for passengers to bump or upsell into upgraded seats through voluntary or involuntary means. A gate agent approached Ronald specifically, not the younger travelers nearby, and told him his seat had been reassigned due to an aircraft change and that he would need to pay $90 to secure a comparable seat or accept a middle seat in the rear. Ronald paid. What he was never told was that an aircraft change triggers passenger rights that entitled him to his original seat assignment or a full rebooking at no charge. The gate agent's script was accurate enough to sound official, but incomplete enough to extract $90 from a man who was legally owed nothing. Another overlooked reality is the carry-on sizing theater that happens at busy gates. Airlines frequently place bag sizers at gates during high-load flights, specifically during boarding, not at security, because at the gate you have no time to repack, ship items, or find alternatives. Gate agents are sometimes incentivized by revenue targets. A bag that flew without comment on your last 6 flights can suddenly become a problem at a gate during a full flight when the airline needs checked bag revenue. For most senior travelers, essential gate protection includes knowing your passenger rights card by heart or saved on your phone, never paying a gate fee before asking to speak to a supervisor, understanding that aircraft changes trigger specific reseating rights, and knowing that voluntary bumping comes with compensation you can negotiate, not a fixed amount the airline sets unilaterally. I had a passenger age 79 who used exactly this knowledge at a Dallas gate when an agent attempted to charge her $65 for a bag that had flown free previously. She calmly asked for a supervisor, referenced the airline's own size policy on her phone, and boarded without paying $1. That 2-minute conversation saved her $65 and gave her confidence for every flight since. Now let me walk you through the third insider secret. This is the tactic I personally watched used most frequently on senior passengers during my 22 years in this industry. Secret number 3 is the loyalty program confusion trap. For most senior travelers, loyalty programs feel like a reward. Accumulated miles, status levels, priority boarding. They represent years of faithful flying with one airline. But inside the industry, loyalty programs are also one of the most sophisticated tools for extracting money from passengers who believe they are being rewarded while they are actually being quietly charged. Tests like mile expiration schedules, partner redemption blackouts, and dynamic award pricing can destroy the value of miles that took years to accumulate. These mechanisms operate mostly invisibly until the moment a senior traveler attempts to redeem miles and discovers their account has been partially zeroed, or their award seat costs 3 times what they expected. A common situation I observed involved passengers who held significant mile balances but had not flown during the pandemic years. Many airlines quietly changed mile expiration policies during that period. Passengers came back to flying expecting their miles to be waiting and discovered accounts that had been reduced or zeroed entirely. The notifications had been sent by email to addresses passengers no longer actively monitored. The terms and conditions had been updated in ways that were technically disclosed but practically invisible. I had a passenger named Margaret, age 72, who had accumulated over 180,000 miles with a major carrier over 15 years of loyal flying. She had been saving those miles for a dream trip to Italy with her daughter. When she attempted to book, she discovered that 90,000 of her miles had expired during an 18-month gap in her flying, and that the remaining miles were no longer sufficient for the award she had planned. She had received 2 notification emails during that period, but had not opened them because she assumed they were promotional. Years of loyal flying had been quietly erased. The key principle is this: treat your mile balance like a bank account. Log in every 90 days. Set calendar reminders for mile expiration dates. Screenshot your balance quarterly. Never assume miles are accumulating correctly. Call the loyalty desk annually to have an agent confirm your status, your miles, and your expiration schedule out loud. Your loyalty is an asset. Protect it with the same attention you give your financial accounts. Secret number 4 is recognizing the subtle announcement tricks already happening at your gate. Many senior travelers dismiss the confusion they feel during boarding announcements as personal difficulty hearing or keeping up. But gate announcement design is not neutral. It is engineered for specific outcomes, and older travelers are disproportionately affected by the way information is delivered, sequenced, and timed at the gate. Boarding group confusion is one of the most profitable sources of gate fee revenue. Airlines have expanded boarding groups to as many as 9 or 10 tiers on some carriers, with names that change by route, aircraft, and season. A passenger who is Group 4 on one flight may be Group 6 on the next, with no change in their ticket class. Announcements are made rapidly, often over poor audio systems in loud terminals, using terminology that shifts constantly. Senior travelers who mishear their group and board early are charged gate fees or sent back to wait. Those who wait too long because they missed their group announcement are then told overhead bin space is unavailable and charged for bags they would have carried on for free. A 66-year-old woman I met named Sylvia had been flying the same route twice a year for a decade. On her most recent flight, the airline had rebranded its boarding groups. Her ticket said Main Cabin Extra, which she had always understood to mean early boarding. The new system had reclassified that fare category into Group 3 instead of Group 1. She waited for what she believed was her group, boarded late, found no overhead space, and was charged $45 to gate check a bag she had paid to bring on board. The reclassification had never been communicated directly to her. It had only appeared in an updated FAQ section of the airline's website. The key principle is simple. Before every flight, look up that specific airline's current boarding group structure for your exact ticket type. Do not rely on memory from previous flights. Arrive at your gate 60 minutes before departure, so you can ask a date agent directly to confirm your boarding group before the process begins. Written confirmation from an agent protects you from gate fee disputes. Any leg of your journey is easier to navigate when you know the rules before the clock starts. Now we come to the 5th and final insider secret, and this one surprised even experienced travelers when I explain it. Secret number 5 is the strategic comfort manipulation used to sell upgrades to senior passengers. This surprises most senior travelers because it is not a fee or a hidden charge. It is a systematic psychological approach to making economy class feel just uncomfortable enough that upgrading feels like relief rather than an upsell. The discomfort is not accidental, it is calibrated. For most senior travelers, essential gate protection includes knowing your passenger rights card by heart or saved on your phone, never paying a gate fee before asking to speak to a supervisor, understanding that aircraft changes trigger specific reseating rights, and knowing that voluntary bumping comes with compensation you can negotiate, not a fixed amount the airline sets unilaterally. I had a passenger age 79 who used exactly this knowledge at a Dallas gate when an agent attempted to charge her $65 for a bag that had flown free previously. She calmly asked for a supervisor, referenced the airline's own size policy on her phone, and boarded without paying $1. That 2-minute conversation saved her $65 and gave her confidence for every flight since.